When I first started out, I was the first woman hired to cut timber for this logging company. No one would look at me. It was like the most bizarre thing. I was like a ghost, but I could feel everyone looking at me the second I was working or like the second I wasn't looking, I could feel everyone's eyes. And a few months in, we got a call. And by this time, I was like cutting my own trees and they had some trees that they couldn't reach. Everyone was there. And I dropped this tree and all of a sudden I hear cheering. I was like, Dan, do you hear that? And he goes, I have worked here 20 years and no one has cheered for me. It was a very like odd experience. And from that point on, I was in.
Today joining us is Piper Bates. She is a logger, also known as a Lumberjill. We're super excited to have her here. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation to come on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to kind of share more about it because a lot of time on my social media, I kind of just show the work. And I think it's really cool to be able to do things like this where I'm able to kind of sit down and talk about it more and go in depth a little bit more about it.
Going into that, I mean, what sparked your interest? Well, first, I want everybody to, for those that don't know, what is a Lumberjill?
So I call myself a lumberjill. It's like a lumberjack or a timber faller or a logger. So it's a person who cuts timber for a logging company for production.
What sparked your interest in wanting to pursue it?
What sparked my interest is I started out at this tree service and I was only gonna, learn the trade. I'd never held a chainsaw before. I had no prior experience. And I got really lucky with a mentor, Dan, who taught me how to climb, how to run a saw, and he eventually advocated for me to cut timber for a logging company. He was a big piece in the puzzle of like sparking my interest and, giving me the confidence to go for it and advocating for me.
How's your path compared to other paths in becoming a logger
Yeah,
and a
I
climber?
think every person's path is kind of different because you can get into a lot of different ways. You can get in through the Forest Service, and there's following jobs within the Forest Service. For me, how that looked is I started when I was 18. I needed a job. My seasonal job had just ended. I wanted to stay in California, and my cousin was quitting her groundsman position at a tree service, and I was like, "Man, the job looks cool, hours look cool." So I took her spot and she like gave me her old chainsaw pants and like I wore boots for a while just to like before I, got my own. So I started out just like dragging brush, chipping. I learned to run a saw and then eventually worked my way up to climbing. To getting into logging, I'd climbed for about like 3 years at that point.
Oh,
And then
wow.
I've been cutting timber for 3 years. This will be my 3rd year. I get messages all the time that are like,
Mhm.
where can I put my application? And I was like, it's not an application thing, unfortunately, where I work. It's kind of like word of mouth. It's, someone kind of advocates for you a little bit to get in. At least for the
Mm.
logging company I work for, it took a year for my boss, who I cut timber for, to even like allow me to be out there. He was kind of
Wow.
like threw out some excuses of like, I don't think she's ready. I don't know. And Dan, he basically put his job on the line and was like, can't cut for you because I can't leave Piper high and dry on Friday. So she either has to come with me or I can't cut timber for you guys. I think we both just got sick of waiting for me to like come out and help. So I started out bucking. So that's kind of where you'd start.
What is bucking?
So when you drop the trees, you go and cut them into lengths depending on the size, the diameter, and the type of tree.
Mm.
So then the equipment or like the yarder can pull it up the hill and load it onto the truck. Because they can't pull like whole trees up the hill, so
Yeah,
you got to
that's
cut it into
intense.
lengths that
Mhm.
the mill will take. So like I have to cut 33 feet or 41 is the like preferred length. So a lot of people start by like running equipment on the crews and then
Mhm.
work their way up to like bucking for the equipment because like the equipment can also drop smaller trees in areas that equipment can drive on. And then we go in and we cut trees that are too big or hazardous or too close to waterways or too steep for equipment. So that's where we come into play. So they'd go and buck for equipment and then eventually work their way up to cutting timber. And I kind of got a fast track in because I had already had a bunch of chainsaw experience. So I started out bucking for Dan. So Dan would drop the
Mhm.
trees and I'd go and I'd buck them. And I did that for the first like 6 months till he was kind of letting me have my own strips. And a strip is a unit of trees that you drop that is flagged and marked out. So your strip, your unit. And then now I cut by myself, buck my own logs, but that's kind of how I started out.
You didn't necessarily need to go to take a course on or get a A certificate. It's
Yeah,
just an
so,
experience.
like, the Forest Service, I know you have to have certifications.
Mhm.
The company I work for doesn't require any certifications, so I actually don't have any certifications, which, I mean, it is a setback if I wanted to branch out, and I probably will, like, work towards those just to get them, but, I mean, I for what
Yeah,
I do and who I work for, I
yeah.
don't need them. So,
No, yeah, at this point, it's like, why,
yeah,
Like,
you know,
you're
you've
in
also
it.
do work, it's not like a
It's like they know you know how to do it really well
Yeah.
now.
And a lot of
That's
times it's hard because a certification, I mean, I might be biased because I don't have them,
Mhm.
but a lot of times people will reach out and be like, I have like my class B faller license, and I go look at their videos and I'm like, I don't think you know what you're doing. Like, I don't think you quite
Mm.
understand it. And the repetition you get cutting timber rather than like going out and getting a cert over like a course of, like, showing you know how to do it once, you know? I feel like it's a more valuable what I do of going out every day, same repetition, different things every day, and, like, progressing on that rather than just being like, "Okay, I did it once, I got my cert."
Take me through your first year as a lumberjill. Like, how
Well,
was it? Were you nervous? Were there any mistakes?
uh, yeah, I was very nervous. I feel like especially too so the logging company I got hired on, I'm the first female cutter that has ever been hired on the crew. So they've never had to have girls out there. They've never like I mean, there's women like foresters and they come out and that's like normal, but and there's women like log truck drivers. I've heard of like 2 on the radio,
Mm.
but I there's no female fallers on the company I've worked for. I was the first one. So I felt a lot of pressure. I was young. I mean, I still am young, but I was 20 when I first got out there. I felt like too, I felt a lot of pressure because if a guy messes up out there, no one is gonna say, "All men suck at cutting timber," like, by that mistake, but me messing up out there, it's, "See, she doesn't belong out here, she
Mhm.
shouldn't be out here." This is so I felt a lot more pressure to succeed and to show that I am, like, deserve to be out there and not just because, like, Dan helped me get the job out there, like, I deserve to be out there, so I think a lot of mental toll of that, of, like, just wanting to be useful and succeed. And I feel like I really did. I honestly feel like I look back now on the trees I was cutting because it is right after the Caldor forest fire.
Oh,
And
wow.
so the logging company I work for got a lot of jobs clearing that and clearing like the roads for that. And
Mhm.
so we were cutting all burnt timber. I, like, didn't cut green timber for the first 2 years I cut timber, which is very dangerous because you don't know the integrity of the wood, because it can fall back on you. You don't know
Mhm.
the integrity of the roots because when a tree burns, it'll burn all the way down into the roots too. And it's yeah, and the ground's all messed up and the trees are really big because the, trees we were cutting was all unmanaged Forest Service land, so, like, I look back now and I'm like, you know what? I really wish I was cutting some of the stuff I'm cutting now because 'cause I'm cutting, like, green timber, it's all, like, 3-foot diameter, 3 I mean, think,
Yeah.
like I mean, that's still big, but
That's
it's
huge.
not as I was out there cutting, like, 5-foot diameter trees my first year and, like,
The same.
bucking stand for the first time, it's, like, 4-foot diameter logs, and they're, like, totally on this super steep hill, and so I kinda got thrown into the thick of it because of the circumstances um, like, that fire
Mhm.
rolling through, and we got a bunch of jobs with that, and so, um yeah, I kinda got thrown in the thick of it, and I feel like I honestly thrived. I wanna set the standard for, like, if other women were to get hired out there, that, like, they are capable, it's all women if I mess up, because I'm the only one to base, like, the example on, it's not just me, and so I wanna, like, set a good example. I am capable of being out there, and I run, like, just as big a saws as anyone else. I don't carry lighter saws, I carry a 661 36-inch bar, just like everyone else. So,
Wow, that's insane.
yeah.
What does the typical day look like for that for you? For a
Yeah,
logger?
so
Mhm.
the typical day looks like so we start right when the sun comes up. I mean, almost before the sun comes up. As soon as it's light enough to start cutting, we're cutting. So I'm up at like 3 a.m. and we typically cut depending on the unit and the type of unit, we cut between 6 to 7 hours. So we all spread out into our units because we all cut alone. And you have to be far enough apart to where, like, I'm not worried about this tree hitting you, you know, so we're
Mm.
all a few tree lengths apart. We all have radios, so we can all talk if we need to. Cut for 6 hours, I take, like, a 15-minute lunch, eat really quick, jump back jump back in. Yeah, hike down into my strip because, like I said, we're cutting all those trees that the equipment can't reach, so it's either really steep ground next to waterways, really rocky areas, so we're hiking in and um, we cut from the bottom up, and so go home, grind my chain because you gotta do saw maintenance as soon as you're done with the day because you gotta get your saw ready for the next day. So go home, grind my chain, um, clean my filters, fill up my gas, bar oil, do any other maintenance I need to do, get ready for the next day, and then repeat. I try to like um
Is this like an constant, like a everyday thing? Like what do the hours look like for you? I mean, I know you said 6 hours. Is it every day?
So, yeah, it'd be Monday through Friday. I subcontract, so I mean, sometimes I cut 5 days a week, but depending on distributing the work between climbing and cutting timber, I cut about, like, 3 days a week, 2 days a week.
Mhm.
I split my time in half doing it, so, yeah, I do that about 3 days a week, and then I climb, um, 2 days a week. And the first year I started, I was cutting timber 3 days a week and climbing 3 days a week. I was working 6 days a week, which was a lot to jump into, but
So what are the differences with both, with the climbing and then with the logging? Was
so climbing is residential. I do that in, like since I work for a private tree service,
Mhm.
we do, like, residential tree jobs, so, like, in your front yard, on your property, and we go and we climb and remove it and,
Oh.
whatever that entails, so, yeah, I mean, it's in small enough areas where I have to climb up it and dismantle it in smaller pieces, so I climb for
That's
tree
insane.
service, like, 3 days a week and cut timber for 2 or swap, so climb for 2 days and cut for 3 days, so
And then now I'm like really curious as far as like how much everything takes. So, okay, so for the logging part, I know you said you have to hike. How long does it typically hike? How long is your hike versus like you actually cutting down that tree?
So,
Which one's
we'll go
longer?
into a unit, and, I mean, we have to hike down the unit's, like, marked out, it's, like, 15 acres normally.
Mhm.
I don't know how far that is, but it's normally down a hill, so you have to hike all the way down a hill, hike all your stuff, gas. You take
Mhm.
everything with you for the day. You leave the truck, you take everything with you, your saw's on your shoulder, and, a forester will go in and mark out the unit, so it'll be marked and, like, habitat retention areas will be marked, trees that are too close to waterways will be marked that we can't cut, and, I mean, so if it's, like, a clear cut, we're cutting everything, um, all the way up the hill, like,
Mhm.
everything. But if it's a thinning unit, we'll go and a forester's already been through and mark the select trees. So, they're all, like, relatively close together. It's not like I'm hiking, like I'm not,
Okay.
like, finding one tree, I'm cutting down, like, a lot of trees in a day. So yeah, it's just, like, a 15-acre parcel, but I'm not on that 15-acre parcel. I'm, just in a section of it with a couple other loggers. So we're, like does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, you guys are kind of separating that
Yeah,
part.
separating over
Mhm.
this, like, let's say
Huge
15 acres,
acres
but
of land. How many trees are you cutting down a day?
ah, man, that is the golden question. If I'm cutting, like, similar, like, let's say bar length, so 3-foot
Mhm.
trees all day, I'd probably cut I don't wanna, I don't count. That's the thing, 'cause I can't I know my boss, like,
Oh, yeah.
Dan will take a little tracker, and he'll tap it all day, and he'll get, like, 60 I don't know, I it's like
For one
it's like
person?
yeah, yeah, if I'm cutting, like, big trees all day, I'm getting, like, 30 on the ground, if I'm cutting and I have to buck them all, but if I'm cutting small trees all day, I can get, like, 100 trees on the ground. It's all depends on the size of timber and the ground you have to hike on and the type of unit, so, sorry, I don't have a straight answer for that. I get
No,
that
that's
question.
still a lot, 30 huge trees.
Yes,
Or
yes,
60 to
yeah,
100, that's a lot of trees.
yeah,
Oh,
uh,
man.
I know, I get that, that is, like, the most asked question, and I wish I had, like, a
No, it's
answer.
okay.
you
Hey, that's
know?
a pretty good that's still a lot. I mean, you probably
That's
like you
like
said, you probably
ballpark,
do more.
yeah.
How long does it usually take, like, 20 an hour?
To cut down one tree?
Yeah, maybe not an hour,
N
but yeah.
no, it takes, like it's pretty quick. I can get a tree down in, like, less than 5 minutes.
One of those huge, like, 30-foot trees that you're cutting.
Like, a 3-foot diameter tree, like, so as long as my
Mm.
bar, I could get that down in, like, less than 5 minutes, 5 minutes.
Oh,
But the
wow.
thing is, then I have to go out and I have to so I drop the tree, then I
Mhm.
have to walk out on it, I have to limb it, take all the limbs, cut off the limbs, and then bucket to the lengths. So that's kind of the longer part. So, like,
Mhm.
the whole process probably takes, like, if I had perfect drop buck, like, 15 minutes.
That's still really good.
Yeah,
Having
yeah,
to cut that
well,
down, yeah.
yeah, the thing is where it's all we're cutting production, so it's,
Mhm.
like, all fast paced. It's all about getting as much wood on the ground as you can in a day and just, production cutting. So it's not like I have a set amount of trees and then I'm done. It's like I got 6 hours, 7 hours to cut as many trees as I can, get as much wood on the ground as I can, and that makes you a really good faller. So
Yeah, that's intense. That's intence. And what would you say what are the biggest risks or I mean, we kinda see it. I can kinda but I
what
mean, from
is
your experience, yeah.
no.
From I mean, things that we do that I might not see,
Yeah.
actually, share. Please share all what are the biggest risks or dangerous
Alright,
moments?
let's put it on the list.
Yeah.
Let's
In logging that people, like, I guess, the outsiders rarely see. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I guess, yeah, go
um,
down the list. I'm really curious. How bad
yeah.
can be all
I mean,
the risks be?
basing let's, like, base it off because I reach a spectrum of people, like, it's
Mhm.
not just it's, like it's a very small amount of, like, tree cutters and timber fallers that follow me. It's, like, a lot of people that, don't do tree work follow me because
Yeah.
it's just so interesting. So, a lot of common questions, I guess I'd say, that I get in the comment section, and I think that's what I'd base it on of, like, outside what people don't know looking in, is people ask me so when I'm put my face cut in and I'm putting my back cut in to tip it over, I get questions of, like, "Why are you looking up? Why do you look up every time you hit a wedge in?" And the reason I'm looking up is I'm looking for widowmakers because the vibration of the tree of, like, pounding a tree over can shake out limbs and break limbs, and brushing against other trees can break limbs down onto me, and I mean, a 15-foot limb could kill me, you know? So,
Oh.
you constantly need to be looking up, that's such a big thing. Not cutting off your hinge is your control point, and cutting that off, the tree can go anywhere. Reading the tree properly, if you think it's leaning left and you're like, "Okay," and then you kinda get on the downhill side or look at it from another angle, and all of a sudden it's leaning so hard right. I've had trees where, like, I I read it so wrong. I don't know how I read it so wrong, but put my back cut in. All of a sudden, so what will happen is, so you put your face cut in, and then you put your back cut in to hopefully tip it into that first cut you put. But if it's leaning the wrong way, it'll sit back. And if you cut too much of your hinge, it can fall backwards. But the thing is when it sits back, it sits all the weight of that tree is sitting on your bar, so you can't move your bar. You can't take your bar out. Your saw is stuck. You're stuck there until you can either get a wedge in there. I've had to, like, pack the jack down the hill, cut, like, a jack seat, and, like, put the jack in and jack the tree off of my bar to get it out. So, being able to read the tree properly, bad ground is really scary because you can't get away fast enough. I've had times where, like, I've dropped a tree and I clear my area as much as I can. Big thing is always, like, first thing you do is just clear your escape path because, I need to be able to get out of there because I don't know what's coming back. I've had times where, like, I've cleared my escape path, I put tree starts to tip, I'm leaving, I trip, and I'm, like, crawling on my hands and knees, and a, like, giant limb falls exactly where I was if I, like, didn't get out of the way, and it's like the thing is, though, this has happened to, like, every logger I know, and then some. Like, it is a common I mean, not every day you're, like, crawling for your life,
Yeah.
but yeah,
I'm just, like, picturing you, like, just trying
I
to get
know,
out the
just
way.
I'm
Oh my
literally just like, "Well, this is it." Like,
I know, how do you remain calm? Like, how do you I mean, obviously, all of it you have to stay calm because if you don't, you might do something that you regret, I'm
Yeah.
assuming. So it's like, how do you stay calm? Is that through just a lot of, experience?
I think it's just through a lot of experience. I yeah, I just think you've done it so many times. It like things that used to scare me don't scare me anymore. And you know when you have your hinge and you've got like a wedge in, everything's going well. You have a lot of control if you're looking up. So I feel in control of all the situations I'm in. So I guess I don't really get like too stressed out because I know what's gonna happen. I know what I'm doing. So I guess
To
um
prevent from that from
yeah,
those
yeah.
things
So it's
happening, yeah.
but
What
at
was
the
I
same
mean, now
time,
I'm curious. What was, like, your biggest fear at the moment when you first started?
when I first started,
Yeah.
my biggest fear is always cutting off my hinge. The hard part is when I first started, like I said, I cut on those fires, the trees weigh a lot less because they're burnt and they're dead and there's no water in them. So, a green tree, you can leave a thicker hinge. I can, like, leave a lot more wood and the tree will move more, but when the tree's dead, you have to cut more of your hinge to move the tree. So, it was really scary for me to go into that and, like, not having as much leeway because I would always leave too much hinge um on the dead trees. And so, that was always, like, my biggest fear of, like, I either, like, cut my hinge off or cut too much but
Yeah.
that's what's holding it and pushing it in that
Yeah.
direction to stay on the stump till it's leaning enough. Because if you just cut it completely off the stump, you don't know where it's gonna go?
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
so your hinge is what the wood you leave uncut
Mhm.
between your face cut and your back cut.
I could see what you're saying. It's like you just do a straight cut. It's just like
You
you
don't
said,
know
you
where
don't
it's
know
gonna go,
where.
you
Yeah.
have to leave this holding wood, so it's called your holding wood or your hinge. Hold the tree on.
Yeah, what are some of the more scarier moments where you're like, "Man, I don't know if Imma make it through this today." I don't know if you had that moment. Hopefully you
Yeah,
haven't.
um, I think, like, I definitely had an accumulation of those moments for sure.
Mm,
And and it's more like I'm not gonna make it through this day. It's more like, "Man, I'm not cut out for this. Like, I
mm.
can't do this. I'm not cut out for this." And there's a lot of imposter syndrome. I'm always like, "I'm not as good as people think," and it's like, I am, like, I am. My social media is my portfolio, and I share my work, and I prove to myself time and time again that, like, I am good enough to be here and I deserve to be here? But a big scary moment that it didn't happen to me, but when I was first started working, I was working with my cousin, and we're really good friends, and he also cut timber, and he was bucking a log, so cutting it to the length. And like I said, we're on really steep hills because 'cause we're in, like, draws and on hillsides, and he got on the downhill side of the log to cut, you're not supposed to stand on the downhill side of the log because the log rolls when you cut it off. But he had to, like he thought it was held up by this stump, so he was, like, cutting, and he cut it, and the stump gave out, and the log, the 4-foot diameter tree, rolled over him. And he luckily he's very quick very quick thinking. He dove down next to a rock that was near him, and the log just rolled over him and, like, squished him and cracked some of his ribs. Like but he was fine. It was just, like, um that was a very, like, eye-opening moment of, like, someone who I love, and it's like I've had other friends that, like, um, trees falling over, like, backwards, or trees falling over on the side, and just, like, hearing those stories and seeing how good of cutters they are and how professional they are, um, it's really an eye opener because I'm like, "Man, that would never happen to them." They're so you
Mhm.
know, they're so skilled, and it's people logging is, like, the number 1 or the number 2, depending on the year, like, most dangerous job in the US. That's, like, the most deaths, most injuries, so it's pretty unforgiving.
Oh, man. I can't imagine how many times this stuff happens, like you
Yeah.
said, even with the most experienced cutters.
Yeah, it's like, and my bosses tell me all the time about, like, friends that have died from cutting timber, like tree fell on them or, like, just things that you do every day and you're like, "I have this down," but, it's a different scenario every day because it's a different, like, environment. So, You know, it's kind of you always gotta be very focused and very, like, aware. So, I work for a logging company, so it's all production. So, we're selling all the wood. But it's logging is so regulated. I feel like people think it's funny, I feel like people think I just go out into national forests and I'm just like, "Oh, this size tree? It looks better on the ground." So, like, it's, like, so but or, like, people are like, "Murderer," and I'm like, "It's dead." Like
I was gonna ask you that. I'm like, how many people are messaging you?
oh my gosh. You know, no one messages me, everyone just comments. I'm like, "If you really had a problem, you'd message me." You know what I mean? But I rarely get, like, actual DMs of, like, people upset. But, I mean, for the first 2 years, like I said, I was only cutting dead timber, and it was all road hazard trees and all, like, clearing out everything around, like, waterways and stuff, and so it can all get replanted, you know? And so that wood is I mean, it's all dead, so it's just gonna rot and eventually fall, and who knows where it's gonna fall. And what's cool is the first few years after a fire, the wood is still, like, you can still it's still good for production. You can send it to the mill, and it can still be milled for lumber and stuff. And so the first, like, 2 years of the after the Caldor fire, we were, like, at logging everything. You know, we were trying to get as much wood on the ground because after that, it's just useless. It's just rotting. So it was a lot of road hazard and, you know, all areas I cut get replanted. Right now, we've been doing this really cool thing where we're doing, like, fire breaks and thinning units. So it's a lot of preventative for, like, fires. We'll go in and thin so, like, none of the canopy is touching. We'll cut everything, like, around different trees because that's the fastest way of fire spreads is, like, through the canopy, you know? And so we'll do that or we'll do fire breaks where we, like, clear cut a whole section so at least, like, the fire can stop, or they have an area where they can, like, go to be like, "Okay, this is our fire break." Lately, we've been doing a lot of preventative logging or thinning units, so the area was cut previously, it got replanted, and it's very heavily populated, so we'll go in and we'll thin it and take lumber out of that, so we'll leave a lot of trees, take some, and that's just better overall for the health of the trees.
I mean, would you say like that's like the biggest misconception that you have? I mean, that people have about your career field, or is there other misconceptions that you're just out there just cutting trees to cut trees?
I think that's kind of the biggest misconception. I think it's, yeah, I think people thinking how it's, like, not regulated or I'm just, like, cutting down the rainforest. I'm like, "No, this is all, like, plantation logging, like, it's all been logged before, it's all been planted again, and now it's gonna get logged again, and or it's gonna get thinned," you know? I think that's the biggest thing, and it's also I'm very sad and shocked by the amount of people that can't tell a tree is dead. Like, it's just, like, black and crispy, and they're like, "No, that black crispy one looked healthy, but the inside," and I was like, "Where is a green needle or leaf on this whole tree?" Or, like, I could, like, go on, but I think it's mostly just people think it's just unregulated. I'm just, going out in the you know?
Yeah, you're just the tree killer over there.
Yeah, "Oh, that one wants to go." Like
I mean, do you have to work out before? Because it sounds like, I mean, it's an intense very physically demanding job.
I get asked that a lot as well. I know a lot of loggers that work out outside of the job and stay I don't. I feel like I'm pretty conditioned. I mean, I do this, 5 days a week, 6 days a week of, like, either I'm climbing trees or I'm, like, cutting timber. So, I feel pretty strong and I feel, like, pretty in shape for what I'm doing. I also do a lot of, a lot of my hobbies are all very, like, physically demanding, so I play, like, soccer, like, 4 times a week, and I skate and
Oh,
rock climb, and so it all just keeps me in shape, you know?
yeah, I'm like, the climbing trees isn't enough, I see.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're by yourself, not
Yeah.
entertained, but, like, not being in a team and everything. Is there how do
Yeah.
you stay focused? How do you stay motivated?
Yeah, I do cut with a crew, so, like, there is a couple other loggers that I work with, but, I mean, we all do work, like, alone, all day, and then we meet back up at the top, make sure everyone made it up the hill safe, and, like, radio check, like, once a day, make sure everyone's good, and then that's so it is pretty yeah, you're pretty alone all day, it's a lot of the same thing every day, but it's also so different, you know, and it's a job that you can't get complacent. Like,
Mm.
that's your life you're putting on the line if you're deciding to get complacent. And so the, like, constant focus and the adrenaline and, the problem solving, because every tree doesn't lean the right way. You can't drop it in certain areas, like, can't drop it in waterways. So if it's, like, leaning super hard into a waterway, you gotta, like, wedge it like crazy. So every day is a different day and it's, you know, a different you're solving different problems every day and you're just really staying focused. And so I feel like since my work week is split up, I'm climbing some days and I'm logging some days. And so that keeps my schedule pretty
Nice.
different, you know?
And it's not like
Yeah.
you're, like, listening to music or listening to something because 'cause you're constantly
No,
having to
you
stay
have to
focused.
listen. Yeah, you
Mhm.
have to be able to listen because you got to hear if like something's breaking. You can shake out like the top of a dead tree. You can shake out just by wedging it, like the vibration of that can break out the top 20 feet of the tree and, like, land on you, you know? So it's like, you gotta be constantly listening and aware of your surroundings, so
Going into money, what would you say realistically, what can someone expect, from a beginner all the way to more experienced
yeah,
logger?
that's a really hard question because I know it's different kind of across the board, but, like, an experienced timber faller can make over $100 an hour. I
Oh,
can't
wow.
really, like, put it into, like, exact 'cause I know it's kinda different for everyone, and it's different if you're, like, contracting or if you, like, work for the company, you know, so I it's like a the experienced faller can make over $100 an hour, but you supply all your own stuff, you know, you supply all your own saws and gear.
Oh. Just, I guess, from your experience and the people that you've met, do you think this is a lucrative job? I mean, for it to be such a risky job, is
Mhm.
it worth it? Is the money worth it?
The money is worth it. It definitely is. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of time outside of the time you're actually making money because it's like driving and your saw work and maintenance and things like that. But it is definitely worth it. It's very lucrative, but I mean, you got to know what you're doing. It's not a job that, you know, like I said, it's not a job you can just like be like, "Hey, I've cut a tree before. Like I can go do it." You know, it's like, you know.
Is there anything else that you would like to see yourself do within your career?
Yeah, that's a good question. I definitely want to get my arborist certification. That's like I just keep putting that back and I just need to do it. Become a certified arborist. You know, I don't really know what else I want to do with my career right now. I think I'm like really happy with where I'm at and learning right now. I feel like I'm just still in this learning stage of like, okay, I feel like a really sufficient logger, but obviously like 3 years is nothing in like people who cut timber, you know, and climbing. I've been climbing for like 4 years and you know, I always feel like I'm learning. I mean, you're always learning, you know? And right now I'm really committed to just like perfecting my skill and learning more and like learning as much as Dan will teach me, you know. Eventually branch out. You know, I don't think I want to be in California forever.
When you were saying that you were thinking of doing the an arborist, how does that get you to the next level? How would that help you?
Arbor certification is a universal. So
Mhm.
like if you get your arbor certification, it's not bound to one state. It's like the global certification. You can go anywhere. And the arbor certification, that's one where it's not even based around like your skill set in cutting timber. It's all like tree knowledge. So it's like questions about soil and about tree integrity and you know, it's like 200 questions. There's like a whole essay portion and you have to have like 3 years in with experience like in the field in some form. And a lot of arborists don't even climb. Like, a lot of arborists, you know, there's arborists for, like, national forests or parks that, like, you have to have a certified arborist come in and, evaluate a tree to, like, say if it's okay to remove or if it's sick or what it needs. And so a certified arborist is just, like, a gateway into a lot of other opportunities that isn't, you know, doing labor.
Alright, so as a lumberjill, tell us a story that stands out. I mean, you've already kinda shared a lot of, intense stories, but what is that
Yeah.
one story that really stands out to you? Whether it's like a breakthrough or whether I mean, you've shared some scary moments already, but, I mean, you could share another one or just like a complete disaster. I don't know. Just what is
Yeah,
that one story that stands out
yeah.
to you the most?
I've shared this one a few times, like, socially, you know, but, when I first started out, like I said, I was the first woman hired to cut timber for this logging company. It's like it just went out when we first showed up, Dan and I. So Dan's been cutting for this company for a while. When we first showed up, no one would look at me. It was, like, the most bizarre thing. I was like a ghost. It was like people would so it's like Dan's my boss who I climb for, and he, like, also cuts timber, and then we have, like, our timber falling boss who we cut for, you know? So, like, I'd be standing between them at the job site, and people would, like, look from Dan over me to, like, the other guy. Like, literally wouldn't look at me. Like, no one would, um it was very odd, and I didn't even take it as, like, an offensive thing. I was just like, "That is so weird." Also, too, there was a language barrier between, like, me and a lot of the workers, like, a lot of them just only spoke Spanish, and I mean, I don't speak Spanish, I should probably learn Spanish, but, and so I don't think it was, like, ill intent, I just think it was more like don't really know, like, what to say or, do we acknowledge her? Do we not? So, it was very odd, like, no one but I could feel everyone looking at me the second I was working or, like, the second I wasn't looking, I could feel everyone's eyes because 'cause they'd all stare, but, so I had, like, been working for the company for a while, and Dan and I, we don't work around the equipment, we go into, like I said, these, like, units, and we cut, so we're not around anyone, and so I was just working with Dan, and a few months in, we got a call, and by this time, I was, like, cutting my own trees, but I was, like, working with Dan. The cat side, which is the side that, like, the equipment can work on, that's, like, even ground, and they had some trees that they couldn't reach, and so we had to go over and work and cut down those trees for them so they could continue working, and so everyone was there. I don't know how everyone was there. It's, like, 60 dudes. Everyone was there, and it's, like, all the equipment operators, all the buckers, all, like, the mechanics, everyone's working out there. No one had seen me work yet because I just had gone off with Dan, and it was a very, like, straightforward tree. It was, like, my bar length, so I didn't have to, like, reach around. It was just quick face cut, quick back cut, tapped a wedge in, and it went over. Like, I've done 100 times at that point, but no one knew. And I dropped this tree, and all of a sudden, I hear cheering, and 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 I was like, "Dan, do you hear that?" And he goes, "I have worked here 20 years, and no one has cheered for me." And a few of the guys on the crew were like cheered for me. It was a very, like, odd experience, and from that point on, I was in. Every morning, it's, "Good morning, Piper. Good morning, Piper. Have a good day." Everyone talked to me. I was like I'd earned it, and at that point, it was like no one would talk to me, and, after that point, though, it was like everyone was friendly to me, and like I said, I don't want it to be like this, like I don't think it was this, like, sexist malice thing. I just think people didn't know how to react, and no one wanted to react incorrectly. That was just a big point where I really felt accepted and, like, was a big turning point in the environment I was working in, so yeah, but now, I've been cutting for the same company for 3 years, and I'm very well known. It's not like you know, but
I
I'm
was
still
gonna
the only
ask
girl
you,
out
how
there.
do you
Yeah,
overcome that? I mean, obviously, you felt like you had to be accepted in. How do you
yeah,
overcome those challenges of being the only female in the room, in the space?
uh-huh,
And what is your advice to women that aspire to do the same thing?
yeah. A big thing for me, with, like, adapting or, like, it being the only woman in this space is a lot of times, something will happen, and it's not intentional. It's just is, like, people have not worked around girls, and I hate, like, giving this excuse of it, but it's just that's just the way it is. And you almost, like, turn around because I don't work with a boyfriend, I'm, like, out there alone, like, have Dan, my mentor, who's helpful, but, like, it's not like, I'm on my own, and so it's, like, things will happen, and you almost wanna, like, turn back of, like, "Okay, who's gonna, like, back me up?" And it's, like, I have to advocate for myself. I have to draw the line. I have to be the one that's, like, stern, and that's something that I've definitely learned that, like, I'm the one that needs to stand up for myself, and, I mean, it was I think that's a really important lesson to learn really early on, and I maybe don't love the circumstances I learned that, but I'm really proud and really happy that I do feel confident in standing up for myself and, like, advocating for myself and, like, believing that I do belong in, this environment and this job site, and it doesn't matter what anyone says. It's like I deserve to be out here. I work just as hard as anybody else. Um, yeah, so I think there's definitely like a learning curve and like definite lows of navigating that. But I feel like I'm really on the other side of like I don't get offended out. Like I get the dumbest comments and I could care less. You know what I mean? Because it's
Right.
like it's not coming from a place of not liking me, it's coming from a place of an insecurity with you, that you don't like me out here. And that's what I've had to learn. It's like, it's nothing to do with me. It's like you're insecure with me being out here. Or it, it takes away from how hard it is because I'm out here doing the same job you are. And so you have to like downplay it. But I'm so past that to the point now where it's like I really am very unbothered. Yeah. Yeah, and no one's, like, mean to me at work, like, everyone is so nice, but it's just, like, you work around enough guys long enough that, like, things are gonna be said, it's just,
Of course, yeah.
like, so but no one's mean to me, no one's, like,
I mean, but at the same time, it's something that you have to have tough skin too, dude. Like you said,
Yes,
to stand up for yourself.
yeah, and overall, it's not even just towards me. People in the logging industry are very blunt. It's
Okay.
not like a, "Hey, so, like, next time don't do that." It's very, like it's like, you gotta be able to hear, like, "No, you were bad at that, you did that wrong," or, like, "You didn't do that correctly," and be able to take it and not be offended.
So for those that are interested and want to do exactly what you do, what would you say is the first thing that they need to do? What steps should they be taking?
Yeah, so, I mean, with logging or climbing, I think a big thing is find your way into some outlet of tree work, like, find your way into the Forest Service, find your way into a tree service, find find your way into, like you with no saw experience, you probably won't get onto a logging job immediately, but, like, finding people that, like, have outlets or are willing to teach you through, like, tree work or being on a job site, just, like, get your foot in the door with something, and even if it isn't what you're, like, trying to go for right away, that experience isn't gonna it's never gonna be a bad thing? So, I think just, like, yeah, finding a outlet in the industry that works best for you and starting there.
Thanks for clocking in with us. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you got a career you'd like to see, message us on Instagram. We're always listening. Till next time, it's time to clock out.